Well, every once in a while, I get a job where I had to go to work, and I said, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Clint Walker truly hated him more than anyone. Behind the calm eyes and the towering frame that millions of viewers admired, there were moments of quiet conflict and personal battles that shaped him into a legend. Hollywood's golden age of Vi. Westerns gave the world many cowboy heroes, but none carried the weight of nobility, strength, and quiet determination the way Clint Walker did. He wasn't just another actor who played a cowboy. He became the very embodiment of the American West. His life was a tale of hardship, resilience, triumph, and tragedy, stitched together by fate in a way that made him both larger than life and deeply human. Clint Walker entered the world as Norman Eugene Walker on May 30th, 1927, in Hartford, Illinois, a small town along the Mississippi River. Born into a working-class family during the unforgiving years of the Great Depression, his childhood was marked by scarcity, responsibility, and the lessons of survival. These were not glamorous beginnings. The Walkers, like many families of the time, struggled to make ends meet. Yet those difficult years instilled in Clint a deep sense of discipline, humility, and resilience, qualities that would later define his rugged screen persona. As a boy, Clint was not the loudest or the boldest. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, towering over his peers even in his teenage years. His unusual height and broad shoulders made him stand out, but what truly distinguished him was his calm and deliberate nature. Teachers, neighbors, and friends often noticed that Clint had the presence of someone older than his years, almost as though hardship had forced him to grow up quickly. School, however, did not hold his attention for long. Like many young men of his generation, Clint dropped out to help support his family. He worked wherever he could, taking on jobs as a factory laborer, a doorman, and even a crewman on riverboats that sailed along the Mississippi. Each role added a layer to his character, teaching him toughness, patience, and the value of hard work. By the time World War II erupted, Clint was still in his teens. He joined the Merchant Marine, eager to serve and see the world beyond Illinois. The war years hardened him, not just physically, but mentally. When he returned, he carried with him a quiet pride in his service and an unshakable sense of responsibility. Unlike many Hollywood stars whose paths were paved with privilege, Clint Walker was molded by the grit of real life long before the cameras found him. His foundation was not fame, it was survival, humility, and an iron will. Clint Walker's journey to Hollywood was anything but predictable. After the war, he drifted through a series of odd jobs: security guard, nightclub bouncer, and even a doorman in Las Vegas. His imposing presence, standing at an astonishing 6 feet 6 inches tall with a deep baritone voice and calm demeanor, naturally drew attention wherever he went. In Las Vegas, chance encounters with industry insiders led to small opportunities. Walker never saw himself as an actor at first, but others did. His broad-shouldered physique and quiet strength reminded producers of the kind of men who once dominated Western novels and pulp fiction. Hollywood was in search of a new face to define its growing television frontier, and Clint Walker fit the mold perfectly. His break came in 1955 when Warner Brothers cast him as Cheyenne Body in the groundbreaking series Cheyenne. For a man who had worked in obscurity for most of his young life, this was an unimaginable leap. Yet when Walker stepped into the cowboy boots, it was as though the role had been written for him. His natural presence required no overacting. His voice carried the weight of authority, and his massive frame added authenticity to the image of a lone cowboy wandering the frontier. In a single stroke, Clint Walker transformed from a working-class laborer into one of television's most recognizable faces. Hollywood had discovered its new Western hero. Cheyenne was more than just another television show. It was the first hour-long Western series to air on network television, and it quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Audiences in post-war America connected deeply with the character of Cheyenne Bodie, a wandering cowboy with a strong moral compass, unwavering courage, and a sense of justice that could not be bent. Clint Walker's performance resonated because it felt authentic. He wasn't pretending to be a hero. He carried himself like one. Week after week, American families gathered around their television sets to watch Walker embody the values they longed for in a rapidly changing world. His Cheyenne was not just strong. He was noble, calm, and compassionate. He fought when he had to, but always sought fairness and honor above all. The series ran from 1955 to 1963, spanning 8 seasons. During this time, Clint Walker became more than an actor. He became a cultural symbol. His portrayal influenced countless Western characters that followed, shaping the archetype of the television cowboy for decades. Unlike many action stars, Walker brought a combination of masculinity and decency that audiences found irresistible. For Clint, however, fame was both a blessing and a burden. While he enjoyed success, he often wrestled with being typecast. Hollywood. Studios saw him primarily as a cowboy and a man of action, limiting his opportunities to show depth or versatility. Still, he embraced Cheyenne body as the role that would forever define him. Walker's towering presence on screen was mirrored by his quiet humility off-screen. He understood that the role had given him everything, and he respected the fans who adored him for it. In those years, Clint Walker wasn't just an actor. He was the embodiment of the American frontier spirit. While Cheyenne made him a household name, Clint Walker refused to let his career stagnate. He ventured into films, bringing his unique presence to the silver screen. In 1959, he starred in Yellowstone Kelly, a Western adventure that showcased his ability to lead a film. His performance received praise for combining ruggedness with sensitivity, qualities that set him apart from other action stars of the era. The early 1960s saw Walker appear in films like Gold of the Seven Saints, 1961, and More Dead Than Alive, 1969. Each role reinforced his reputation as Hollywood's go-to Western hero. Yet he also proved his versatility in other genres. His role as Samson Posey in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, remains one of his most celebrated performances. In this World War II action classic, Walker played a soft-spoken but deadly soldier whose quiet strength left a lasting impression. One of his most beloved films was Night of the Grizzly, 1966, where he carried the film with his charm, physical presence, and natural gravitas. Fans adored the way Walker could command the screen without raising his voice. His calmness and composure were his greatest weapons as an actor. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Walker continued to appear in television, movies, and guest spots, dabbling even in voice acting. Though Hollywood often tried to confine him to cowboy roles, Walker embraced each opportunity, determined to bring dignity to every performance. His filmography may not have been as expansive as some of his contemporaries, but the impact of his work was undeniable. For fans of Westerns, Clint Walker's name stood alongside the greatest. He wasn't just an actor in the genre, he helped shape it. Behind the rugged cowboy image, Clint Walker lived a life of quiet simplicity and devotion. He married 3 times, each marriage lasting nearly 2 decades. His first marriage was to Vera Garver in 1948, long before fame found him. The couple welcomed a daughter, Valerie, in 1950. For years, they navigated the challenges of Hollywood together, but eventually, the pressures of stardom took their toll, and the marriage ended. Tragedy struck Walker in one of the most heartbreaking ways when Valerie, his beloved daughter, died in a motorcycle accident. The loss devastated him. Friends recall that while Clint carried himself with stoic calm, the grief never left his eyes. It was a wound that fame and fortune could never heal. In 1971, Walker faced death himself in a freak skiing accident. A ski pole pierced his heart, and doctors pronounced him dead. Miraculously, he survived after emergency surgery, an event that only added to the myth surrounding his resilience. Many fans joked that Clint Walker was too strong to die, but behind the legend was a man who knew just how fragile life could be. Despite these trials, Walker remained grounded. He avoided the scandals that plagued Hollywood, preferring a quieter life away from the spotlight. His strength was not just physical, it was emotional, the kind that carried him through unimaginable pain. By the late 1990s, Clint Walker stepped away from acting, content to let his body of work speak for itself. But he never abandoned his fans. He frequently attended Western conventions where admirers, many of them older audiences who had grown up watching Cheyenne, lined up to shake his hand. Walker was known for his kindness, always taking time to engage with the people who had supported him. He also maintained correspondence with fans through letters, a rare gesture in an era when celebrities often seemed unreachable. For those who met him, Clint Walker was exactly what they imagined: humble, polite, and deeply appreciative of their loyalty. Even as Westerns faded from mainstream culture, Walker's contributions kept the spirit of the genre alive. His characters embodied an America that valued honesty, justice, and resilience. Younger generations discovered him through reruns and classic movie channels, ensuring that his legend endured long after his retirement. Clint Walker's life was a story of resilience, humility, and timeless heroism. From the boy who grew up during the Great Depression to the man who became the face of television's first great Western, Walker's journey was extraordinary. He was more than just a cowboy on screen. He was a symbol of decency in a world that often forgets the value of honor. His towering frame, deep voice, and calm eyes made him unforgettable. But it was his character, both on and off the screen, that truly defined him. He faced tragedy, survived near death, and endured personal loss, yet he remained steadfast, never allowing fame or misfortune to strip him of his humanity. Today, Clint Walker is remembered not just as a Western star, but as an icon of a bygone era, an era of storytelling where strength was measured not just by fists or guns, but by principles. His legacy continues to ride across the frontier of American memory, a reminder of what it truly means to be larger than life. Clint Walker's towering height and calm demeanor often made him the center of attention, not just for audiences, but also on set. Yet, unlike many leading men of his era, Walker did not thrive on ego or competition. He carried himself with quiet confidence and an unusual humility that won him respect from his colleagues. Actors who worked alongside him often remarked on his professionalism. He came to the set prepared, knowing his lines, respecting the crew, and giving his co-stars space to shine. Walker was not one to dominate a scene unnecessarily. He understood that great storytelling came from balance, not ego. Still, his sheer presence often made him stand out, sometimes creating a subtle tension with those who feared being overshadowed. Directors found him easy to work with, disciplined, punctual, and cooperative. Yet some producers complained that Walker was not Hollywood enough. He avoided scandal, refused to indulge in the party lifestyle, and often preferred quiet evenings with family or friends over glamorous events. In a town built on drama and excess, Walker's simplicity was both refreshing and alien. While Clint never cultivated bitter rivalries, there were whispers of tension with certain actors who felt threatened by his imposing presence. To many, he was not just another actor, he was a giant, literally and figuratively. Still, Walker managed to navigate Hollywood without burning bridges, maintaining friendships with many peers while preserving his private dignity. Fame gave Clint Walker recognition, but it also came with shackles. Hollywood saw him as the perfect Western hero, and for years, producers resisted giving him roles beyond cowboys and rugged men of action. For Walker, this typecasting was frustrating. He wanted to expand his craft, to show audiences that he was capable of more than just riding horses and firing guns. While roles like Samson Posey in The Dirty Dozen gave him a chance to prove his range, such opportunities were rare. Behind closed doors, Walker admitted that he longed to play more diverse characters, romantic leads, dramatic roles, even villains. But the Hollywood studio system in the 1950s and 1960s was rigid. Once an actor was branded, breaking free was almost impossible. This struggle did not embitter him, but it did shape his career trajectory. Fans adored him as the noble cowboy, yet Walker himself sometimes wished the world would see beyond the Stetson hat and six-shooter. To the public, Clint Walker was a larger-than-life figure, the heroic cowboy who stood for justice and embodied the best of American values. But behind the screen, his life was far quieter. He did not chase fame. He lived simply, often preferring the outdoors to crowded Hollywood parties. Walker loved nature, finding peace in hiking, fishing, and spending time in wide-open spaces that reminded him of the landscapes he brought to life on screen. Those who met him often remarked at how approachable he was. He didn't act like a star. He acted like a neighbor, always polite, always warm. His deep voice carried a sense of calm, and his handshake was firm but kind. For many fans, meeting Clint Walker felt less like meeting a celebrity and more like meeting an old friend. This duality, public hero, private gentleman, became part of his enduring appeal. He was authentic. The man audiences admired on screen was not far from the man he was in real life. Despite his success, Clint Walker never received the level of formal recognition many of his peers enjoyed. He did not win major Hollywood awards, a fact that frustrated some of his fans who believed his contributions deserved more respect. Yet, Walker was not entirely overlooked. Over the years, he was honored at Western festivals, inducted into halls of fame, and celebrated by fan communities who saw in him the true essence of the genre. His participation in conventions often turned into emotional reunions, where fans expressed gratitude for the values his characters represented. For Clint, these fan-driven recognitions mattered more than statues or trophies. He once remarked that the smiles and stories of those who had grown up watching Cheyenne were worth more than any industry accolade. It was proof that his work had touched lives, and in the end, that was the greatest honor. As the years passed, Clint Walker gradually withdrew from the public eye, but he never disappeared completely. Even in his 80s, he remained remarkably strong and sharp, often surprising fans with his vitality. He continued to attend conventions, sign autographs, and meet admirers who had followed his career for decades. For many, seeing Walker in person, still tall, still dignified, was a reminder of an earlier era of Hollywood when heroes were noble and stories were simple. On May 21, 2018, just days before his 91st birthday, Clint Walker passed away in Grass Valley, California. The news saddened fans around the world, many of whom felt that a piece of Hollywood's golden era had gone with him. Tributes poured in from fellow actors, critics, and fans alike. They remembered him not only as a star, but as a man who carried himself with grace and honor until the very end. His passing marked the close of a chapter in television and film history, but his legacy remained alive in reruns, DVDs, and the hearts of those who had watched him stride across the screen as Cheyenne, Body. In today's fast-paced world, Clint Walker's legacy may seem like a relic of a bygone era, yet his influence endures. The characters he played were not just men of action, but men of principle, heroes who valued honor, honesty, and justice. These values, though often overshadowed in modern storytelling, remain timeless. Younger generations discovering his work find in him a refreshing contrast to today's cynical heroes. Walker's characters remind us that strength is not just physical but moral. His calm demeanor, his respect for others, and his resilience in the face of tragedy make him as relevant today as he was in the 1950s. Clint Walker still matters because he represents an ideal, a vision of masculinity rooted not in arrogance but in integrity. He showed that true heroes are not defined by how loudly they speak or how fiercely they fight, but by how steadfastly they live by their values. In the end, Walker's story is not just about an actor or a television show. It is about a man who embodied the best of the human spirit, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire across generations.